This episode is brought to you by Global X. Since 2008, Global X ETFs has been committed to empowering investors with unexplored, intelligent solutions. Global X specializes in exchange-traded funds that offer exposure to the artificial intelligence ecosystem, including themes like data centers, robotics, semiconductors, and cloud computing. To learn more about Global X's entire suite of ETFs, from covered calls, fixed income, emerging markets, and more, visit globalxetfs.com.
Welcome back, folks. This is episode 144. It's about payroll, and we're talking about 26 versus 24 pay periods, or not pay periods, check dates, and what all that can do to a payroll pro and how it impacts us. But before we get into that, sir, how are you doing?
I'm good. Groundhog, I guess the groundhog said that we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter. Yeah.
So, was the Groundhog Day when? Yesterday or today?
It was yesterday. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm good. The sun was shining today. It was nice weather. So we'll see if that prediction comes true or not. But go from there, man. How you doing?
Yeah. I'm good, man. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I am A-okay, sir. We are for if you happen to be on live checking this out, we're working with some new tools. We're on Riverside now. We used to be on, we still have it. So we're testing Riverside out. We'll have to see how it goes. We really like it so far. It allows us the ability to go live while we record. So that could be a whole new dynamic to the show. If you actually are watching, and chime on in, because we don't know if you can or not. There should be a way to show the interaction, but we haven't learned how to do it yet. That would be cool though. I like it. We had a lot of fun with it the other day, like testing it all out, and so it was cool. You got any news for us today?
No, just hey, we made it through year end. Hope everyone got those W-2s out on time, and I hope everybody is have made it through that process smoothly, and that all your employees, all those that you service, were able to get their statements either online or mailed out on time.
Yeah, exactly. No, for those of anybody's live right now and watching, first was what? Friday, right?
Friday. Yeah.
So in the instances where it's getting mailed out only, it might still be in the mail. So don't get too upset yet. Don't freak out yet. It might still be in the mail. If you have a digital access, I prefer digital. I really urge folks to go digital because of the safety factor of it. Although I did notice, I'm glad we're talking about it. The W-2s now are coming with a mass Social Security number. You knew that already?
Yeah, I saw some examples of that.
I didn't realize. I don't know if it was prior years as well, but I was definitely looking at it this year.
Look, because think about it. If you still elect to get a paper W-2 and your full social is exposed,
that's what I worry about.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think it's a lot of danger, even because it's your name, your full name, your legal name, your address, kind of where you work. There isn't still enough information there for somebody to do some damage, or at least get enough to kind of crack the rest of the code. So still, I think I urge against the paper versions of W-2s. I think you should go digital if you have that capability. And then what you can do is download it, secure it somewhere on your hard drive, your safety, encrypt it if you can, put it behind some things or whatnot. Don't for those of you waiting for the paper, it's still we legally have as payroll professionals to get it out by the 31st of January. So it could have literally gotten mailed out on Friday, and because it needs postmark 31st, no later. Right. Yeah. And the company will be out of compliance. So they could have sent it out on Friday, and you'd be getting it sometime during the week.
But the payroll pros and the HR pros, definitely know that, but if you're an employee or you're just a business person that's listening and you're worrying about your exactly what Brian said. Right?
Yeah. So any updates on our financial fitness challenge? You make any changes yet?
No, I did.
Okay.
So
can you share?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I wanted to do for myself is to Well, are we speaking personally or about the business? Because I know
either way, whatever savings it's all about savings.
So for me, one of the things that I kind of fall into is buying groceries and then still eating out, even though I have groceries. And I know that's a symptom of,
same here,
that everybody goes through, right? But really just trying to correct that for myself and for my household and to change that. So that's been a change that we decided to do. Like, look, this is what we're going to do. And we had a discussion and we were like, hey, should we go all this way or all that way or do a mix? Like, so now it's just strictly like maybe once a week to eat out. Okay. To have it budgeted, like, hey, this is what we're gonna budget. It can go up to this amount, but it doesn't have to go to that amount every time. And so that's something that we're just trying to really just save money in and invest in different things and like really just grow money, because we're talking about that this year. It's like, hey, this is, in 25 we're trying to thrive. So
no doubt. I like that. 25 and thrive. Yeah. I had no additional changes there from the first one. My first one was cutting DoorDash, right? We made some decisions to cut like some business stuff that we're going to do. I guess I did take my investment a step further as far as my Robinhood account. Okay. I actually, because there's one thing, you can move money into the account, but if you don't actually put it somewhere, you're not investing anything. It's just sitting there doing nothing. So, right, you like just for those of us that don't use these, I don't know how the other ones work, but that's how Robinhood is. You move it into the account first, but then you have to commit to investing it in something, either diversity via stocks, whatever it is.
Crypto, EFTs.
Yeah. So I made a decision, and I was like, all right, it wasn't a lot of money, right? I'm starting off low and then move it in, little by little. And so my first one was Amazon. I was like, what? Because then it's like, I told my wife recently, I was like, I'm so smart, I'm stupid. Like, I've read so much stuff on investing and this and that, right? That when it comes time to decide, I'm like frozen, what do I do? So I knew I had to move it into something, because I didn't want it just sitting there. I was like, it's not going to be any use collecting digital dust. So I did Amazon, because I'm like, Amazon ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not.
So
if anything, it's going to expand even more.
It'll continue. It's already split, right? And it's, if you follow stocks, it's already split. So, maybe it's a solid investment is what I went with. And now as I go along and collect more information along the way and tips and stuff, because I listen to enough crap to get, that's a good tip,
So let me ask you, do you plan to diversify?
Absolutely.
How you? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely want to diversify. Yes.
Yeah, because I put a little bit in Meta. I put a little bit into Tesla. I put a little bit into some crypto and a little bit into EFTs, different stocks and stuff like that. So, hey, even if it's $5 here or there.
Absolutely. Hey, grow. Yeah, money's money. Got to grow it. While we're talking about it, look at the EFTs that you're investing in, because you can see what they're investing in, and you might be doubling up, and maybe does that make sense or not? You know what I mean? So just something to look at as you invest in EFTs. I do have a little bit of news. I came across an article on Business Wire. This is my go-to for payroll info and payroll stories, and not so much payroll related, but definitely part of our employee experience. And it's the I-9 process. And Experian launched a new virtual service, Experian, the credit bureau, but they do other things, right? They kind of Experian trying to be in that fintech space, that financial technology space. And they launched a service that they're kind of outsourcing the step 2 in the I-9 process, where somebody has to validate your documentation and your information. It's usually the managers, like most companies put that on the manager, because they're the ones who are onboarding and whatnot. But Experian, kind of stated and reported that there's over 22 million folks still working from home. So the remote type of deal is still a lot. And I find that if you take it away from the manager anyway, it's going to be more efficient, because we've been in brick and mortar businesses and the manager still finds a way not to do this step. So Experian is launching a product where it allows the company provided that they buy the product, right? If you're a subscriber to this product, you can outsource that step 2 in your I-9. And yeah, they've got like virtual service to streamline form I-9 compliance. So I thought that was really cool. Believe me, I've been in situations where the I-9 has been very critical, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And, so many companies that are out there, big and small and everything in between, that are out of compliance. I had a recent HR leader teach me about some of the things like, they look for, they meaning Homeland Security, whatever government agency rules over the I-9, they look for these little tiny things that are like, if you don't do this, it's hundreds of dollar violation on every one that doesn't have this box filled in or something. Little things. And it's just a money grab for them. So anywho, I thought that was a really good
it's a great
article on a good process improvement. Yeah.
All right, man.
Before we get into it.
Oh, that's right. We got to pay the bills.
Got to pay the bills.
I'm always trying to avoid paying the bill. No, I'm just playing.
Finding a great career has always been a challenge. But today, with the massive changes underway in just about every sector of the economy, in just about every country in the world, finding a great new career is even more challenging. And if you're a student, recent graduate, or someone else early in their career, it's even harder for you because you just don't have the experience that those who might be 10, 20, 30 years older than you have. The answer? The podcast. From dorms to desks. A podcast by College Recruiter job search site, where every week we take a deep dive into a topic specifically of interest to candidates who are early in their careers and looking for a great part-time, seasonal, internship, or other entry-level job.
Just playing, y'all. All right, so as you're setting your ambitious goals for 2025, or if you already have set those ambitious goals, remember that a well-organized team is the foundation for success. If you have a healthy workforce, you have a healthy business, right?
Right.
So in 2025, streamline your business operations with TimeTrack Go. Their user-friendly time tracking software empowers you to get organized. So say goodbye to those messy spreadsheets and inaccurate time entries. Effortlessly track employee hours with their user-friendly time clock. Streamline those time off requests and approvals with their intuitive system, and automate those vacation and sick leave policies.
That's right. And if you're ready to make 25 your most productive year ever, sign up for a free trial of TimeTrack Go today and experience the difference. In just minutes, you'll be on your way to increased productivity, reduced payroll errors, improved employee satisfaction, and more time to focus on what matters. In payroll, that's like probably doing some type of audit or something that you need to do that you haven't been able to do because of the time track issues. Don't let those time tracking issues become a burden. Let time track go. Simplify your life and help you achieve your goals for 2025. What did Walt say? Thrive in 2025.
Yeah. You can thrive in different ways too.
Yeah. So visit www.timetrackgo.com. One more time is www.timetrackgo.com. Let's go.
All right, man. So let's get into it. I'm going to share some different things. I'm going to start off, and then Brian's going to drop some knowledge for you. So talking about the difference between looking at the 26 pays versus the 24 pay periods, which is better. We're going to discuss that if we think that either is better, pros and cons, different things like that.
Because it's arguable. People debate, we debate this with leadership all the time.
So I'm going to get into it. The first one I'm going to talk about is the biweekly pay, or the 26 pay periods, right? So some of the pros may be that the employees receive 2 extra paychecks in some years, which can be a financial bonus to them. And this method,
but is it though?
It definitely really can. Not. But for some employees, it's looked at like that, right? Because it's just like, I'll get that third paycheck, that third paycheck, I don't have any, depending on how your company is set up too, It might be to the point where I don't have any deductions coming out or anything like that. So I'll save that for Brian. He said he's going to talk about that. All right. And look, it might make it easier for employees to manage their expenses and for potentially the business to manage their expenses and budget.
I think so. Yeah.
So the cons may be those budgeting on a monthly basis, may be challenging due to the varying amounts each month. So employers face some complexities in payroll processing, especially in years with 27 pay periods. So I guess that happens,
It's like only every 7 years though.
Yeah. But look,
and that actually might be a bonus payroll, because if you don't know that year, you already set up for 26, unless you're right. Like you got to know about that going into the year. I'm glad it came up in this conversation. 27 pay periods.
So here's an interesting stat, right? That APA, aka better known as Payroll Org, now found that 65% of employees prefer biweekly for its regularity and potential extra paychecks, right?
Agree.
So semi-monthly, which is the 24 pays, right? Or twice a month. And that could be set to any set day. Typically, my experience has been the 15th and the last, or the 15th and the 30th, depending on
the first and the 15th. Usually
something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Oh, but I have seen companies do like the 5th and the 20th.
Yes. Yep.
Like random stuff. I'm like, where do you even get these days?
You got to pay your rent with the 20th check, and then
that's right. Oh, I didn't even think about that. See.
Yeah. So,
and that's what you're saying could be one of the cons, and like the budgeting things that make it tougher, right?
Yeah. And so like Paychecks are more consistent on a semi-monthly budget, especially if you're salaried, right? Like you get the 86.67. Some people like the semi-monthly because it has the higher rate. Apparently, so the paychecks look a little bit nicer,
I mean, you're still getting your same money,
same annual salary, but
for payroll pro, at the end of the year, you're still getting the same pay. But for payroll pros, I think it's harder to do an hourly population in a semi-monthly cadence.
Why is that?
Because it breaks up the pay period in a way that is not clear and transparent to the employee.
Yes.
And the OT part, you're going to say, right?
Yes. I'm going to say it can make the OT more complex, right? And it may find the employees may get a little bit frustrated by it too, like depending on, well, I worked OT on this day. How come it didn't apply to this check? Well, because that day is a part of the next pay period, And so that may be something that creates some tension, between the business or the employer and the employee, or the payroll department and the employee trying to explain.
It may be even out of compliance in some states.
Maybe. We gotta
see. Not even not allowed to do it in some states. I'm just speculating. I don't know for sure. California,
and look, the good thing I forgot to mention about biweekly, going back to that consistency, right? Because there's 10 days in a pay period, typically for the
business days. There's 14 days in the pay period.
Yeah.
Regardless.
So no matter what, semi-monthly, you may have 10, 11, 12.
Oh, yeah. It varies. You've seen it anywhere from 9 to 12 days in the pay period that it could vary.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
So that's tough for it. Look, at the end of the day, for our payroll pros, at the end of the day, it gets done, right? But for the employee experience, it's a pain.
So look, there's a stat out there from PayScale. They had a report, and it said that 40% of organizations opt for semi-monthly pay because they value the consistency and ease of integration. So you don't agree?
No. I think that's because look at the stat. Organizations, not the employees, because what the employees opt for? 65% of employees said they like bi-weekly. 40% of the companies say they like semi-monthly. Yes. That, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Again, like I said, from the payroll perspective, as long as you set everything up right, it works. But from a payroll pro, it might be hard to explain to your hourly employees the constant shift in pay period.
So
it creates not only the days, the inconsistency in pay days in a pay period, but also how many days between check dates. Because for some reason, those long months, them check days, your check days just
can feel almost
farther.
like a day, you know. So that's something that can affect or impact employee morale, which is one of the things that it says here under, I have in my notes under the business perspective, right? That biweekly for a business offers flexibility and may improve the employee morale because of the extra paychecks. I've seen it firsthand, right? With an employee saying, "Oh, I can't wait until January because I get my 3 paychecks. I can't wait until June, July, whenever it falls for them." Like saying because it works out for them, but it may complicate something for the business because of annual budgets or whatever, right? And they may prefer, like those 40% may prefer the semi-monthly because it aligns better for them, their financial cycles, and simplifies their accounting and
of course
stuff like that. But you know,
and for payroll pros that don't know, the reason why they like it more is because if you do the 15th and the 30th or 15th and the last day of the month, that's also a good call out. When you're doing semi-monthly, there's usually 2 choices: the 15th and the 30th, or 15th and the last day of the month. That's different because that means it's the 15th and the 31st on where applicable, or the 15th. Well, I mean, I guess February you don't have a choice. It has to be the 20th.
And look, we could get a lot deeper into this too, because like depending on if you have a certain check date and depending on how your employees are paid. So do you have a population that has the salary are paid different, even though they're on the same check date?
So you're talking about paid on time, or really paid in advance. Some companies call it paid on time. Some companies call it paid in advance. It is technically both because you're paying a few days in advance to these salaried employees and not in arrears, right? My initial point was accounting likes it because no matter what, the pay period is in the same month as the check date. Whereas biweekly in arrears put the first check of the month a mix of last month and the beginning of the new month. And that drives them crazy, because and especially at the end of the year, because January really represents maybe some of the prior year. So it just drives accounting crazy because they got their accruals and all that not nonsense, the accruals and all that stuff. Just being disrespectful to my finance partners.
So he didn't mean that.
I didn't mean it. Yeah.
All right, what do you got for us?
No, I like the way you kind of go. Okay, we covered all that stuff. That's good. That's good stuff. I want to make sure we cover all the stuff. I have some tips and some things to think about if you're changing cycles. If you're going from 26 to 24, which I beg, unless it's a salaried population, I don't think 24 is ever good for hourly employees. And just put that out there. So these tips are just either way, whether you're going from 26 to 24, 24 to 26, just things to keep in mind. And shout out to Gerard, because he did actually a class at the last PayCon about this subject. And I wish I found the notes, but I think I remember the one thing that stuck out for me in his presentation that I'm going to share here at the end. So anyway, these are some tips to think about if you have to change your frequency. What's the financial impact to the employees, right? If you're 24, like if the last pay period on the old cycle is far away from the new pay check date on the new cycle, right? What you got to say? Because I know you did this recently, so.
No, I want to ask you a question.
Oh,
because of what you said that you have to consider. Is it have to or should consider?
Well, that's a good question.
Average is not invited. Not if you're holding your company off-site in Las Vegas. We aren't on friendly terms with the bare minimum, and unenthusiastic is uninvited. Las Vegas's creative energy and world-class hospitality want to bring your company off-site to crazy new heights. That's why fear-based leadership is afraid of Vegas, and boring won't be there, but it will be watching the meeting recordings later. Plan for the extraordinary at vegasmeansbusiness.com.
In my mind, it's a have to, but you're right. It's really just you should, because I
think it's a have to.
I think it is a have to, because there is some states that you have to tell them in advance that this is going to happen. And that was the takeaway from Gerard Hall's presentation that stuck out for me, was kind of because I don't think I knew that before that time. And I was like, oh crap, that makes sense. You have to inform the employees in a set amount of time. So yeah, you're right. I think you have to. I don't know, but you're right. Technically, yeah, no, you have to, right? You have to. It's not gonna go over well if you don't. Put it that way. In this day and age, it's a must. So, again, if the last one of the old pay period is far from the new check date and like your employees need to know that in advance so that they can budget properly and kind of weather that storm, right? Just keep in mind, somewhere around 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. If you throw that cycle off, whether it be good or bad or whatever, that's going to throw them off big time. So you definitely want to consider that financial impact. You want to, so that comes with communication to the employees, right? And then you want to communicate to your accounting and finance team because it's going to impact cash flow. You want to make note to let your auditors know what year, right? Because now when your auditors come and look for that year, they're going to find discrepancies that could probably easily be explained by, we switched frequencies. That's why this is happening, right? So you want to throw that out there with them. Your deduction amounts could be thrown off. So like Walt was alluding to earlier, you can be on a 26 frequency, but still get your medical deductions out 24, right?
Depending on how it's set up,
Depending on how it's set up. If your system allows for it, right? If you can manage it, that could be an option you have. I was kind of, I guess, taught, or like kind of taught, I guess, but a payroll pro this past year kind of brought it to my attention and was like, it's good to do 24 and 26 so you can allow the first check date in January to pass before you start deducting. So you only do it on the last two, or you schedule it in such a way where you don't take the first one because, again, it's usually mixed with the prior year. So there's some companies may take that into account. But I think it's really all depends on how you do it with your with finance and kind of figuring that all out, right? Right? That's what I said when she told me that. It was a she. I was like, man, that is a really great call out. So I didn't know, right? So anywho, that's something to consider. Get benefits involved. And to the prior point with cash flow to finance, get finance involved. Make sure these are your stakeholders, right? When you're making these changes in payroll, finance, HR, benefits, you have to operations.
Because most times you won't be able to, unless you have final decision making, you won't be able to make that decision a lot of times anyway without consulting those other groups.
And if you're selling a change to leadership, you want to get these stakeholders on board first before you sell it. Because you could say, hey, I've already talked to finance, already everybody's on board and agrees that this is can work and it's okay. So the possible deduction amount changes, get benefits involved. Year-to-date amounts could be impacted depending on the timing. For example, medical and FSA. If you're doing this mid-year, by the way, best practice would be to try to do it 1/1, right? That would be, if not, then quarter and start, only because of reporting. All these things, payroll lives quarterly in calendar, right? Everything happens in those time frames. Best practice would be to try to catch those timings. If you can't, and you can't do 1/1 and you have to do it mid-year, you have to consider what folks have contributed to their medicals, and like FSA for some reason, now their election may be changed because they elected one thing and based on one frequency, and now their amount could change. Like, how do you do that, right? You gotta get benefits involved, right? Prepare your system. If you're dealing with a fancy system, you got to work with your system partners and your account managers to say, hey, we want to do this mid-year change or even calendar year change, and we want to go from one to the other.
So you're speaking to like factors if the cycles if you want to change cycles.
If correct. You want to change, if you're going 24 to 26 or 26 to 24. Or vice versa.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Let me add one in here for you.
Yeah,
right?
Go ahead.
Because
shoot.
for as far as like those deductions and stuff, like you want to make sure that the system setup is correct too, right? As far as the company level, right?
Yes.
Because you can switch the check dates and stuff like that, but if in the background you still have the company set to semi-monthly, and it's going to tax those employees on the semi-monthly rate, like it's going to throw everything off, right? Potentially, if that's how your system works.
Call out,
right?
Absolutely. See, Walt is going through system changes right now, so he's got all the little good nuggets flowing around. I love it. That's right. That's a good call out. The taxation, just system setup, period. You should work with your vendor to say, hey, what all can be impacted? And honestly, go poking around without them, because can't tell you how many times I know more than my account managers would trust but verify.
The employee level, right?
Then,
what are we seeing, right? You're probably going to get, okay, I see that there.
Which one? No, call it out. Which one?
So the employee's salary, how that looks in the system, right? So if you switch their pay frequency, or did you update their salary info? But I see that there. I went ahead of time. My bad, bro.
No, it's fine, bro. This is no particular order. So Walt is calling out like how, for your salary folks specifically, because your annual should look the same regardless, unless you're a 10-month or fractional year employee. That is a whole nother conversation for another show. But if you're a 12-month employee, it should not change the annual, but it may change the per pay period amount for salary. Not may, it will change that amount.
And for the hourly folks too, right? Right. If depending on how your system is set up, because if you put in if it bases it off of a 26 pay period amount, wouldn't your hourly amount be impacted by that, or will it be the same? Like even
shouldn't.
Okay.
Shouldn't be.
Okay.
Your hourly rate should always stay as good. See, this is great conversation and stuff. This is where we get stuck in, and actual. We probably had this actual conversation.
We have. I'm sure.
But no, the rate should not change.
Okay.
Your hourly rate should stay the same, but your check is definitely going to look different.
So it's more so for the salary of
the salaried employees. And it's specifically for the systems that show their pay rate as the per paycheck amount. I don't know if every system does that. The systems that I've used have, as opposed to for hourly folks, it just shows their hourly rate. But now for hourly folks, going from one to another, their size of their checks will vary, right? Like it's to their favor on the 24, but they sacrifice that. What was the frequency of the 26? If they're going from 26 to 24, I would not recommend that. But unless you have more of a salary population than you do hourly, right? If you don't have a lot of hourly people, then it might be fine. But if you have majority hourly, that should dictate how your system goes and how you how you set up. That's my opinion. And for speaking of salary folks, you want to make sure that their compensation is not impacted, right? Like if you're doing mid-year, or even if you're doing mid-year or even the end of the year, if 2 weeks are in the prior year on the new year, like you really just got to make sure, and you got to do like projections and what ifs and things like that. What's up?
Yes, exactly. Because you and I have talked about that. We've been through that before, where we changed cycles and did a big overhaul. Yeah. And there's at least another question that I have before you continue on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not trying to drag it out here, but like,
I don't know. I love it.
If you are in an environment, and you and I have worked in an environment that had multiple cycles or frequencies, right? Do you find it better to align or to
align all the cycles?
Yeah,
absolutely. For a payroll pro, it just makes your life a lot easier, unless you have a team that you can dedicate one person per cycle and per thing, right? Because it just makes it easier for us to think in that manner. Help our clients.
Easier for finance too, right?
Oh gosh,
accounting?
Heck yeah. Heck, I would imagine. I mean,
for them, like, hey,
no, it's got. No, I don't think so. Because I think that our CFO was in the same vein. He was like, no, this is horrible. It needs to be one cycle, right? So that it wreaks havoc across the board, in my opinion.
And I remember, I don't know if you remember some of the conversations we had at PayCon, with some great payroll pros that were talking about how their setup was. Okay. I remember somebody saying they had, multiple pay frequencies, and that it was like a lot to handle.
Yes. It is. Again, if you don't have a person per frequency or per cycle, that's a lot to juggle. You got to constantly be shifting through things. I think and that's a really great conversation. Like just in that of and of itself is like, you can think in a linear manner where it's just one frequency. All your conversations revolve around that same pay period and same check date.
Yes.
It makes it hard to float between.
Yes. I was just thinking about that. Like if you had somebody that was a floater and my home department is in the biweekly frequency,
my gosh.
But I need to go help someone cover under semi-monthly. Like,
that's crazy.
You'll still be, yes, you might be able to pay them, but like
it's going to lack transparency to the employee. We will understand it as payroll pros because it's our life, right? What you made me think about was being under those several different frequencies. I remember anytime I had a customer service like call or somebody call me, I would immediately just have to go to what organization they're in or building they're in to see their pay cycle. Says, okay, I know where you are. Okay, now I can help. Like I would have to acclimate myself with each conversation of where their pay frequency is to even have a conversation with them. So that's on. So that right there, like we didn't cover that at all here. Ease of processing for your payroll pros. Like it just makes it easier for our lives. Now we know that business decisions can't all be hinged on how easy our life should be, but that's what you fight for, right? You make the business cases to help your life get easier because you want to run an accurate, efficient payroll. So that's, we use all the things.
We should do like a remix of that set song. I think it was Beastie Boys, Fight for Your Right. What was it them? Fight for Your Right to Party?
Yeah.
Fight for Your Right to Process Payroll by
Payroll.
I don't know.
No, give Walt some time. He'll come back with he'll write these lyrics.
I don't know if it'll be as good, but we'll see. All right, go ahead.
It may not be, but I probably be better than most. That's for sure. So again, we're ensuring your employee compensation is not impacted. The salary folks, especially, making sure that they're just whole. They make the dollar amount that they're supposed to in that year, factoring when they started and right. So keep that in mind. And then timing, like when you do this, are there holidays involved, and when the timing you pick? Are there weekends involved, right? Because if you're a 24/7 business, weekends are applicable, right? If you're a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday business, maybe not so much. Is it around the same time as raises and merit increases? Because you don't want to do it.
Hey, everybody. I'm Lori Rudiman. What are you doing? Working? Nah, you're listening to a podcast about work, and that barely counts. So while you're at it, check out my show, Punk Rock HR, now on the Work Defined Network. We chat with smart people about work, power, politics, and money. Are we succeeding? Are we fixing work? Probably not. Work still sucks, but tune in for some fun, a little nonsense, and a fresh take on how to fix work once and for all.
Right in the same check that they get their increase, because then they're not going to see it, right? They're not going to understand. You're going to be on the phone, customer service for weeks.
Especially if you go from 24 to 26.
Oh, hell. And increase their rate. Why? Because somebody might think it's a genius idea. Oh, this is going to be great. We'll go to 26, but we'll be raising their rate. Man, you're going to have so many customer service conversations and walk people through their time and do simple math with them, but they want you to confirm that they're making their money right. And rightfully so, because that is creating more lack of transparency, What else? Raises time card system, if applicable. If you have a time system and you punch in, you got employees punching in and out, guess what? You have to make sure the pay period is updated accordingly so that now it's switching over to the new pay periods. You got to capture OT and figure out in that crossover is OT impacted.
Going back to what you started off with, training, communication, right?
Yes.
Like you have to train the managers, the employees, how to clock in, when time is due now, especially with the change, right? Because if you switch from biweekly to semi-monthly, the time that time cards are due or timesheets are due,
it's going to be different.
Yeah,
that's right. And that's going to be a moving target every month. That would suck. Again, sorry if y'all got to go from 26 to 24. I hope you don't have any hourly employees, but yeah, it would just be horrible.
You could tell the affinity that Brian has.
Yes. Best practices, folks. I don't always get to live by these best practices, but I can have them in my mind.
Yeah. We all have dreams, man.
We can all dream. Even payroll people dream.
Yeah.
Communication, as Walt just said, you have to give communication. And again, that was one of the takeaways I took from Gerard Hall's lesson on it. Was a notice period in each state could be different. Some states mandate a particular notice period, meaning 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So be careful if, align all of that. If you're in multi-states, you got to make sure every state, you're adhering to every state law in this, right? Our advice is give as long as possible. If you could do 3-6 months out, that would be preferable. Use all the channels possible that you can communicate, and then do it frequently, often, a lot, many times to them, because guaranteed somebody's going to be like, I didn't know you were doing this. Really? All the channels, get sign off on it if you can. And then again, rinse and repeat. And like Walt said, the training is important, because you have to train the trainers, you have to train the managers, you have to train the employees.
So let me ask you this question. Should you update your handbook? Your employee
Absolutely.
Handbook?
Thank you. Great call out, as we're missing stuff in here. Yes, update your handbook. Or you could do like a policy addendum. You can do an addendum to it and just have them sign off on it. But it's got to be across the board, like in all the states you're in. And then after you're done, leave an open door policy for a bit, maybe 6 months. You crazy. You biggest customer service advocate out there. Sometimes I think that's a payroll trait, man. I think we get caught up in doing too much sometimes, and we got to really be more efficient,
but
set a good schedule.
But you really could do too much. I know I've done too much.
Yes, you can.
Like, instead of like pushing back and saying, hey, this is how it's going to be, especially you try to go the extra mile and give that white glove service and say, hey, I want a good experience. Like, hey, I'm the Chick-fil-A of payroll. Oh, well, if you like Chick-fil-A, you might like Raising Cane's. You might even like meat, but whatever.
You the sweet greens of what was that place down here? Tomato something. It was only salad.
Yeah.
I forget it was.
What's that? Sweet tomatoes?
Sweet tomatoes. I think it was sweet tomatoes.
So. Yeah,
bro. Funny sidebar story. When I first moved down here, one of my brothers came to visit. And it was by where we work. And I was like, oh, let's go to this buffet. I knew it was a buffet. We go in and we're like, where's the meat at? And then we had to ask somebody. They were like, there's no meat. All right, well, peace. See you later. Went to Outback Steakhouse next door. Yes. So anywho, again, leave the door open for employees. Leave an ongoing open door policy for your employees. One of the things that we did at one of our stops together, Walt and I, we did like a weekly open door type of thing, virtual. We would log on.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
Right? Log on for an hour, the same hour every week. Thinking about doing it now, too, with some of my folks. And we did it for just the managers. It wasn't all employees, because if you got 1,000 employees, it's probably going to get hectic. But you leave it for their managers, because the managers are the first line, right? They're the ones that are dealing with all the questions. And they like, I don't have the answers, and I'm tired of, putting, you know what I mean? So you want to empower your managers or whoever your front lines are. And we did it just a recurring every same hour, every day, same bat time, same bat channel. And I think it was really helpful, and you can definitely do it in a situation like this where you're doing the changeover, and you can say, okay, for the 3 to 6 months after, we're going to have this open door type of thing. We're going to be on this virtual link, and you could jump on and ask any questions, maybe do it on payday, because that's when all the questions, nobody knows anything until they get their check. And then all of a sudden they have all the opinions and comments in the world.
Yeah, in the perfect world, you'll do the explanations and you'll do that leading up. If you do enough prep work, then a lot of that could be, you might knock some of that out ahead of time if you do it right.
You have to do a good FAQ.
Yeah,
sure.
All right, man. Great stuff, Brian. So I'm gonna end this with the question of the day and see what your opinion is when an organization is considering a pay schedule. Is it more important to prioritize their employees' satisfaction with those frequent paychecks, or is it more important to streamline financial operations with a consistent monthly cycle?
I think this day and age, I think this question has different answers across time.
Yeah.
Right now, we're all about the employee experience. So I think you got to do, if you're I would put it in the employees. I would take a vote on it with your employees. Let them vote for what happens. But then, you know what? This brings up what do you think before I bring in my other 2 cents?
No, go ahead. I want you to get your thought out.
And earned wage access.
Okay.
Because if you have earned wage access, it blows out pay periods altogether.
You get your money,
pay yourself
a portion of your money, whatever.
Yeah, portion, right? Because there are limits, folks, to earned wage access, right? You can, if a payroll pros, you can put guardrails on it as well as how much the employee can take and la. But that, I heard a leader say that most people were just paying themselves weekly instead of whatever schedule they were on. And we didn't talk about weekly or monthly or annual like some crazy places in this earth do.
Yeah.
Or across the pond, our partners across the pond are monthly, more monthly than not. So a lot of school systems in the U.S. could still be monthly.
What does that say? They get paid 13 months. Who told us that?
I forget now. Maybe Max.
Max, maybe. Max.
Yeah, I forget who. It was one of the first. Oh yeah, it was one of the first people we started talking about. But see, it's not 13 months. It's just the same as 26 or 24.
Yeah,
they're taking the annual and dividing it by 13.
Yeah,
and calling it a bonus at the end of the year. Like, because you only get the 13th month at the end of the year. Like, that's crazy. Like, I mean, it's anywho. We need a global folks. Come on in, and let's talk about that.
Yeah. So,
right.
Getting back to the question here, I agree with you. I agree that we're in a time where we should prioritize the employee, right? But I also want to dive a little deeper into that because I think it also
diddly do. Bro, we don't want to do any diddy here. No diddly.
No diddlers.
No diddlers.
We want to dive into that, right? Because I also believe it depends on the nature of the business. What kind of business or what industry are you in?
For sure.
Right?
Sure.
Maybe you're in a business that you can run a lean operation and you may not really, have a workforce that's like really cares. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody's salaried there, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it depends on the nature of the business too. So I think, yes, definitely prioritize what's good for the employees because you may be in a business that if your employees are unhappy or they go on strike, everything's shut down.
Well, that's a whole school of thought. You take care of your employees and your employees will take care of your business. So it's a good place to leave it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, folks. We love you. Check out next time. Please like and share. Tell a friend to tell a friend and follow us on all platforms. We're all over the place, YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and TikTok. Check out Walt. What are you now? Feelings, finance, and food?
Yeah.
Food, finance, feelings. I like it. I'm trying to change. We also have It's About Your Paycheck on TikTok. So that's the platform there. Escobar season has returned. I just haven't changed it yet. I need to change it, but I haven't thought of anything. If you get any good ideas, let me know.
Okay, I got you. I may change it again because to what's down here, like Walt done did it.
Walt done did it?
Yeah.
Whoa, it's funny.
Yeah.
All right,
man.
We love you. Peace.
All right.